안녕하십니까?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome all of you to the 17th Jeju Forum. From now on, we are going to start the session under the theme of Youth for Future, embracing shared culture in China, Japan, Korea for a peaceful and cooperative Northeast Asia. Simultaneous interpretation is being provided, and please find the receiver on your chair for interpretation. And channel 5 for Korean, 6 for English, 7 for Chinese, and 8 for Japanese. I'm going to introduce the moderator. Program Officer Ning Jie of Trilateral Cooperation Secretariat will moderate the session.
For joining us today for Youth for Future, Embracing Shared Culture in China, Japan, Korea for a Peaceful and Cooperative Northeast Asia. Simultaneous interpretation is available for this session. For service in Korean, set your device on channel 5. For English, select channel 6, Chinese on channel 7, and channel 8 for Japanese. Now, I would like to hand over the stage to Mr. Ningji, who will moderate this session. Everyone, please welcome Mr. Ning.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the session, youth session hosted by Trilateral Cooperation Secretariat, TCS. My name is Ning Jie. I am the Assistant Director for Political Affairs of TCS. It's a great honor to be serving as the moderator today. Before starting our session, please allow me to very briefly introduce all the guests and speakers today. We have Ambassador Oh Bo-qian, Secretary General of TCS. We have TCS Deputy Secretary General, Ms. Baek Bom-hun. We also have TCS Deputy Secretary General, Ms. Sakata Natsuko. And we also have several young speakers today. They are Mr. Lu Rui from Xinhua News Agency, Ms. Kasugai Moi, Mr. Yu Won-sung. And besides, we also have another colleague, TCS staff, Mr. Sawayama Rosuke. Thank you so much again for your participation today. Besides, I also would like to extend my warm kind of welcome and appreciation to the students from Jeju National University. Thank you so much for your participation and all the audience participating in our session today. Okay, let's start our youth session. First, please join me to welcome TCS Secretary General Ambassador Oh Bo-qian to deliver opening remarks. Thank you.
Please allow me to remove the mask while I'm speaking. Otherwise, I will out of breath. Dear young friends and colleagues, good afternoon. And I'm very happy to join you today. And on behalf of TCS, I would like to extend my warmest welcome to all of you, and especially to our young guests from Jeju National University. Jeju Forum is an important international exchange platform with regional and global influence. TCS expects to utilize this platform to deliver the voice of the CJK youth and to work together with you for a better future. Young people are open-minded, dynamic, and creative. You not only represent, but also can shape the future. According to TCS Statistic Hub, in 2020, the population of youth aging between 15 to 24 years old in the three countries are respectively 10.5% of the total population in China, which means 170 million. 9.25% in Japan, which means 11.7 million. and 10.8% in Korea, which means 5.6 million young people. And if those between 25 to 34 years old are included, the percentage will be doubled. The youth are becoming the backbone of our society. TCS shared the responsibility to create more opportunities for the youth in the three countries to communicate and cooperate with each other. Since its established in 2011, TCS has always put CJK Youth Exchange on its top agenda. During the past 11 years, we have carried out a series of annual projects, including Young Ambassador Program, Trilateral Youth Summit, Trilateral Youth Speech Contest, Campus Asia Alumni Workshop, and exchanges for young scholars, young entrepreneurs, young journalists, and young rural leaders, which have received thousands of applications and participants from the three countries. This year, we newly established a special youth team in TCS, focusing on the integration and upgrade of all youth-related projects, so that to create a concerted platform for Trilateral Youth Exchange Network, a comprehensive patent pool and interaction center for CJK youth. My colleague Roy Suki-san will give you more detail in this regard later in his presentation. And the reason we attach such great importance on youth exchange is that we believe that we cannot change our history, but we can shape our future. The future-oriented trilateral cooperation needs the active contribution of CJK youth. The trilateral cooperation among China, Japan, and Korea plays as the stabilizer and driving forces for peace and prosperity in this region. After more than 2 decades, the trilateral cooperation has developed into a full-fledged and multi-layered governmental and non-governmental cooperation mechanisms, with the Trilateral Summit as the core, 21 ministerial meetings, over 70 working-level consultations, and more than 100 ongoing cooperative projects as the strong supports. Nowadays, the importance of trilateral cooperation is far more prominent than ever, since the world we are living in today is now undergoing profound changes. Geopolitical conflicts, the descending world economy, the pandemic, and even the rapid development of information technology have brought us tremendous challenges. Thanks to the development of information technology, every one of us today is now living in a 2 parallel world. One world in real, and the other one is online. The real world and the cyber world. The highly developed information technology is a double-edged sword. It brings us huge changes on our way of life, our pattern of behavior and mentality, both positively and negatively. On one hand, it makes our life far more convenient than before, in particular when the pandemic hinders us from traveling and communicating face-to-face with each other. On the other hand, however, we become so easily and firmly to take what we see and hear on internet for granted, whereas neglect to make any judgment before we accept it as the whole map of the fact. Consequently, misperceptions and misunderstandings are accumulated. Therefore, face-to-face exchange, particularly among the younger generations, is strongly needed. I visited a botanic garden this morning, which is pretty close to this convention center. There's a very special tree in this garden, a tree the leaders of our 3 countries planted by their own hands 12 years ago. And under that tree, a time capsule was buried, which is full of wishes made by 2,020 10-year-old young representatives from our 3 countries. The wishes represented the future then they were longing for. They are now 22 years old, and TCS would like to call for them coming back and joining us in TCS to work together to further promote trilateral cooperation. I look forward to the day when the time capsule is digged out and we can see that the then future has become today's reality. I believe many years later, we can also proudly tell our later generations that we, through our own efforts, have shaped a future we expect. Thank you very much again, and I look forward to a fruitful discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador O. Ambassador O just highlighted the importance of face-to-face exchanges, especially for CJK youths. It's very great that all of our speakers can participate offline today. So in her remarks, she mentioned the TCS efforts during the past 11 years to promote the CJK youth exchanges. So next, I would like to invite my colleague, Mr. Sawayama Loskak-san, to deliver a presentation to give all of you a very detailed introduction about our projects. So before that, I'd like to remind every speaker, due to the time constraint, so your presentation should be within 10 minutes per each. Okay, thank you. Please join us to welcome Mr. Sawayama Loskak. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ninja. I do tend to overspeak, so that is a good reminder. All right, so the presentation is up. Good afternoon, everyone. As was introduced, my name is Sawayama Ryosuke, and I'm currently a program officer at the Department of Political Affairs at the TCS. So we all know the importance of youth exchange, whether it be study abroad programs, homestays, or even short vacations abroad. One's firsthand experience of a foreign culture and its people, that opens us up to new ways of thinking, promoting mutual understanding, and calling attention to what makes our own culture unique. And I think some of you may have studied abroad or have traveled overseas. And I think maybe some of you are also planning to do a study abroad once COVID subsides. And regardless of what form it takes, our understanding of a country and its people fundamentally changes when you go to that country and you actually breathe the air, eat the food, listen to the sounds, and actually make a friend from that country. Now, providing that experience is all the more important for the younger generation. Before their perception of other countries is tarnished by prejudice or bias. Now, with this understanding, in the decades since our founding, the TCS has placed youth exchange at the core of its efforts, understanding that our view of promoting peace and common prosperity among the three countries in the future is best achieved by planting the seeds of change among the youth in the present. So today, I'd like to introduce to you TCS's youth exchange programs, our challenges during the pandemic, and our vision for the future of CJK Youth Exchange. There we go. So at the TCS, we're very proud of the extent of our outreach and the breadth of programs that we've introduced to the youth of China, Japan, and Korea, ranging from public policy, language, stories exchange, academia, and much more. Yet, we're also very aware that we can do better. Precisely because we have been actively promoting youth exchange through various channels, we're keenly aware of what we could enrich in the exchange experience for our participants. And so just like many other organizations during the pandemic, we have had the challenge of promoting youthful exchange in a meaningful way. We were compelled to rethink our strategies and techniques as the pandemic took away from us the one key element that we all thought was essential for meaningful youth exchange, and that is human contact. The COVID-19 pandemic has been extremely humbling for us at the TCS. How are we to provide ourselves in being a leading organization for promoting meaningful youth exchange if we are to give up because international travel is restricted? And thus, throughout the past 2 years, through the sweat and tears of my talented colleagues, the TCS has been striving to provide ways in which the youth can connect, even when they cannot come together under one single roof. So allow me to introduce some of those efforts. Understanding the centrality of the online experience during the pandemic, we first revamped our website, creating a new youth platform as a one-stop destination for all of the information regarding our youth programs. We have moved our previously offline programs online, trying to learn from the best practices of schools and universities, which have also been trying to create a sense of togetherness in their classrooms. For the Young Ambassador program, we made active use of platforms and classroom techniques so that our program would not just be a passive learning experience. We recreated the TCS office, as you can see here, on an online platform called Gather, so that participants could visit us as they would during the Young Ambassador program before the pandemic. We have also valued two-way communication, understanding that the online experience is a better enhanced with active participation from the students as well. And so here, there's a short demonstration of us using Kahoot, which is a real-time quiz website. You might have used it in your classrooms as well, that we used during our Young Ambassador program. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. So, new technologies also allow us to pursue new ventures as well. And so we held our inaugural Trilateral Youth Speech Contest this year, tasking participants to share their ideas for trilateral cooperation in all three CJK languages, taking advantage of real-time CJK subtitles online. We also launched the virtual CJK Marathon, where participants shared heartfelt introductions of their own localities, the courses that they ran, the photos that they took while running those courses, and they invited other people to join when the pandemic situation alleviated, and many people sent comments to each other saying, I'll go, I wish you could come. And so these technologies allowed us to reach a wider audience across the three countries who may otherwise have not been able to attend our offline events due to physical distance and so forth, making our events more ubiquitous. Now, while we believe that youth exchange is still best with face-to-face exchange, the technologies with which we have become accustomed to during the pandemic have provided insight into how we can enhance the experience of such face-to-face exchange when it resumes after the pandemic subsides. And so in many ways, this pandemic has made us consider the future of our youth exchange programs. As the TCS enters its second decade, we ask ourselves, what can the TCS do better to achieve our mission? And so what you just saw is just a small selection of the programs that we have implemented over the past 10 years. And individually, these programs have been impactful in nurturing individuals who believe in the potential of trilateral cooperation. However, we also know that we are not the first organization to promote mutual understanding, and neither will we be the last. And so without a fundamental strategy for youth exchange, our unique impact, TCS's unique impact, will fail to grow. And so what can we do? Currently, the connections that we create in these individual programs mostly remain within those individual programs. And so, for example, people who meet each other in the Young Ambassador program, they will make connections with other people in the Young Ambassador program. But it is a bit difficult for them to connect with people from the speech contest or the Young Professionals program, and even though they both might be interested in trilateral cooperation. And so put that way, it's very clear what we need to do. The next step is horizontal integration, to create a network across the different programs. And so to realize this vision, the TCS is now developing the Trilateral Youth Exchange Network. And this is a new endeavor to bring together young individuals with different interests, whether that be the arts, public policy, culture, rural development, language, film, business, and unite them under the common value that is trilateral cooperation. In the coming months, we're planning to develop a talent pool and communication channel for young people bound by this common value and encourage them to make contributions to the three countries, providing them a platform to seek like-minded individuals and pursue further collaboration. And so specifically, we envision a network where the youth who are passionate about trilateral cooperation can network with each other at physical forums and meetings, as well as online through a dedicated website. Centered on a core team of alumni, this network will provide career and studying mentoring, capacity building, and also annual gatherings of youth from China, Japan, and Korea, where they can discuss how to further promote trilateral cooperation. Now, this will serve as a venue where the youth can voice their ideas to the TCS. The TCS is but a facilitator. The people, the youth, are at the helm of this vehicle, which is trilateral cooperation. We hope that this trilateral youth exchange network will provide an impetus for grassroots momentum to further strengthen trilateral cooperation. The pandemic revealed the flexibility and speed in which the younger generation can adapt to an unexpected situation, utilizing technologies that continue to develop at faster speeds. And so the older generation, they might have struggled with turning on the mic on Zoom or how to turn on their camera, but the young generation quickly figured out how to use Zoom, how to use metaverses to further enhance their experience of exchange online. So the younger generation is capable of coming up with ideas that the older generation do not even know are possible. The only obstacle is many times young people lack the resources and the platform to realize their ideas. And so in the long term, we hope that this trilateral youth exchange network becomes this overflowing reservoir of ideas, rendering China, Japan, and Korea fertile with the spirit of trilateral cooperation. The TCS, we will continue to innovate. And what I ask for you is your continued attention, support, and guidance in this endeavor. Please join us as we foster a future generation of Chinese, Japanese, and Korean citizens who will work together to bring about sustainable peace, common prosperity, and a shared culture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yosuke-san, for your presentation. I'd like to add something that since Yosuke-san just introduced the TCS projects, I would like to say that all these projects he mentioned is open and equally open to everyone, to every CGK student. So please frequently visit our website and especially the youth platform and apply when there's any announcement. And we welcome you to apply. Thank you. Okay, next I would like to invite Mr. Lu Rui to deliver a presentation. Before that, could you please give a very brief introduction about yourself? Thank you.
Okay, I'm very sorry that I will give my speech in Chinese, my native language. So please refer to the simultaneous interpretation. 我先做
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm correspondent Lu Lui of Xinhua News Agency Seoul Bureau. And this year marks the 10th anniversary ever since I started working in this industry, media. I learned Korean, English, and Japanese in university, and I studied alone Japanese. And also, I learned a lot at this Xinhua News Agency. And in Beijing, I was working as an editor at English desk, and from 2014 to 2017, I worked as a correspondent in Pyongyang of DPRK, and since 2017, I have been working as a correspondent in Seoul. And also, I visited Japan to cover 2020 Tokyo Olympics, and I also participated in exchange programs held by the TCS, and this picture was taken in 2015. It was me being part of a military parade celebrating the 70th anniversary of the Workers' Party of Korea, and in 2018, in April, I visited Panmunjom to cover summit between President Moon and Chairman Kim. And this picture was taken in 2020 in Japan, and I was there to cover Tokyo Olympic Games, and I guess it was a stadium for badminton. And I took this photo recently, and I took part in the 30th anniversary event of the establishment of the diplomatic ties between China and ROK. At that time, the event was joined by Foreign Minister of Korea. And I'm going to talk about, from the perspective of media, how three countries' youth can exchange and build friendships. And I'm going to talk about how three countries' youth have a better understandings and objective understandings of each other. ICTs have been advanced a lot, and as mobile devices have been used widely, the influence of social media has been increasing. So the way we live and the way we work have been changed. And when I was in university, WeChat and Weibo were just released. And now, without WeChat or Weibo, life without WeChat or Weibo, we cannot imagine at all. So social media has been used by many media, conventional media, to present articles. And also, Dewin and Xiao Hongshu also covered many news articles. And in Korea, major platforms include Naver for news articles, and youth in Korea is enjoying YouTube also for news coverage, because YouTube provides information in a very convenient way. But of course, everything has disadvantages and advantages as well. The same goes for social media. There are tons of information out there on the internet. Sometimes false information could be distributed through online. And some false and some fraud ideas and false ideas are distributed online, which cause some gaps in perspectives of three countries' youth, and which may have a negative impact on the relationship between youth people of three countries. Sometimes we are not reasonable and we get too emotional, which may cause prejudices against each other. So in commemorating the 30th anniversary of the diplomatic ties between Korea and China, we carried out a survey and we found out many respondents agreed with our opinions. Because of the COVID-19, people are less likely to visit each other and we have less opportunities to exchange with others. So to build a friendship, the COVID-19 has become a hurdle and it weakens our bonds and unity. But anyway, the COVID-19 will end sometime. And when it comes to exchange between the three countries' youth, we have faced many challenges, but those challenges will be addressed going forward. And if you look at some media coverage of China and Korea, you can find articles covering exchange between increasing the advantage of increasing exchanges between the two countries. When the COVID-19 broke out in 2019, in particular in 2020, Chinese embassy in Korea gathered face masks and provided them to Daegu City. And on the box of the masks, you can see we were able to see some phrases saying go Korea, go for Korea. And also the other sentence is that Tao is not far away from people and people are not different country by country. This sentence was said by Choi Chi-won, which was a great scholar in Shilla dynasty. When he went to China, he said this. So when it comes to exchange, differences are not the one that matters. And this picture was taken in Japan in 2020, early 2020. Also in Japan, citizens collected masks and provided them to China. in the early stage of the COVID-19 pandemic, the situation was quite serious in China. So this picture was taken by our reporter in Japan, and after the coverage, some positive sentiment built up. So we were able to see the citizens' relations between China and Japan was quite deep. And this news article was covered by Jungang Daily and Donghwa Daily. Recently, we experienced floods and heavy rain in 100 years in the capital areas, in the Greater Seoul areas. At the time, a male in his 60s saved old married couple in their 80s. So the Korean media covered him as hero. And first, 중앙일보, Jungang Daily reported it, and the news was passed to other news medias so that we were able to see follow-up media coverage. So it quite attracted a lot of attention from audiences from China and Korea as well. Then I'm going to talk about the role of media and how to promote mutual understanding between the three countries' youth. It's important for all of us to be able to visit each other's country and see each other. And if you look at, usually we are getting impressions of other countries, including China, usually from media. So it's important for us to pay a visit to the country and have an understanding regarding the culture, not getting from media or internet. We need to have a first-hand experience. And also, we need to think about how to have a critical and rational thinking, and we should not have any prejudices. And many media covered quite some provocative articles to earn more clicks, to get more clicks and to more clicks. So we need to be able to, so the media should be able to deliver quite important and accurate information to audiences. And once again, I'd like to thank the TCS for organizing and preparing this event. And TCS is carrying out reporter exchange programs, including speech contests. So a variety of exchange programs have been underway. So those programs will be able to helpful in promoting exchange between youth in the three countries. And last but not least, in China, there is a saying, if you grow a tree 10 years, then it would grow 100 years. And the relations between the two countries, I believe, depend on us. And present, when Foreign Minister of Korea said the Sino-Korean relations are depending on leadership. So it's important to go forward continuously, and we should learn from each other. Then if we are willing to learn from each other, then our future will be bright as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much again for your presentation, Mr. Lu Rui. Actually, I also would like to thank you for your kind of support during the past years for TCS project. As a journalist, Mr. Lu Rui, we can see that he has been witnessing the development of trilateral cooperation and the work of TCS during the past years. So in his presentation, he mentioned the role of media in kind of promoting the CJK exchanges. It's very important for the media to take the responsibility, as he mentioned, to building bridges for our three peoples, but rather than creating walls for the peoples. So I really appreciate your work. Thank you very much. Next, please join me to welcome Ms. Kasugai Moi to deliver a presentation. Thank you.
こんにちは。私も同じくネイティブ
So, please allow me to make my presentation in Japanese. Actually, I prepared my presentation in English. We have multiple language going on, but I'd like to speak in my mother tongue, Japanese. My name is Kasugai Moe, in Korea, I started up a company, and in order to further facilitate the exchange between three countries, I'm doing my own business. So in my presentation, I'm gonna talk about CJK exchange. So these are the contents of my presentation. First, I'd like to introduce myself first, and then I'm gonna talk about the businesses that I'm doing right now. And third, I'm gonna talk about the future exchange that would be possible going forward. First, brief self-introduction. If you see this picture, actually, my face would be somewhat different from the face in the slide. This picture was taken when I was a university student. Actually, this is a picture that I appeared in a news program, and I wrote down that we need to be friendly to each other like a member of family. As a university student, I have a great interest in the Trilateral Corporation, and I'm the CEO of the two companies, Correct and Korea Lugaku. And if you see the experience section, up until high school, I was in Japan. Actually, I was not living outside of Japan before that, but I was exchange student or international student during the high school times, and I also even went to Vietnam to do some work. And that work was also not about Korea or Japan, so I came back to Japan and decided to start up my own business in Korea. Next page. So, as a university student, I did multiple programs for the Korean Japan exchange. I thought that I need to do as much as I can, regardless of what that may be. If you see these pictures, this picture was taken in Okinawa on Manned Island. I spent a week together with his friend, and the picture in the middle is a picture I took during the Korea Japan Future Forum. We had some discussion with Korean colleagues, and Joseon Ilbo, the Joseon Daily, covered my speech back then. And the third picture, right bottom. This picture was taken when I was in Yonsei University. I was a leader of the Korea-Japan Circle, and the participant was more than 100 back then. Korean people usually call this MT, the vacation or camping out. So we drank together and had some good quality time together. I'm gonna talk about what I'm doing these days. Correct on the left side. Correct is the company that supports for Korean students who want to work in Japan. Korean labor market is quite challenging because there are not enough jobs for Koreans. And actually, finding a job outside of Korea is challenging, but there are so many Koreans who want to work outside of Korea. When I say outside, it could be Singapore, Europe, or US. There could be multiple challenges, but Japan is actually one of the most frequently visited destination because of the favorable visa. You can easily get the visa when you work in Japan, and also the culture of the two countries are quite similar, and the geographic proximity is also one reason for Korea that they want to work in Japan. On the right side, another company, Owachi Korea Lugaku. This is a company that supports the Japanese students who want to study or work in Korea. There could be multiple options of studying abroad. Maybe they can go to the language center in university or go to Korea as an exchange or international student. We support the full-time student program for 4 years, and some people even choose to change the university to a Korean university. Also, key culture is quite popular in Japan, and there are so many Japanese people who want to spend some more time in Korea for a longer period of time. Also, they want to work for a company after learning Korean. So, Correct and Oi Korea, Luguku, these two companies support around 10,000 people a year. So I think I'm one of the contributor in that sense in terms of the exchange between the two countries. This is a picture of the event that I took before the pandemic. Back then, we were visited by the Korean government officials. You might think that studying outside of Korea or Japan might be very challenging, but some even think that this is quite negative, but actually there are so many people who are passionate about working or studying abroad. So I'm going to talk about how that happened. I started my own company, but there was a clear motivation. When I was in Yonsei University, I studied the politics, and I took actually multiple courses besides politics courses, and I learned that as a Japanese people, these Korean people basically have kind of negative perception about Japan, I felt. However, my colleague one day told me that I really hate Japan, but I happen to like it after learning one fact. And that message kind of resonated in my heart, and I thought that exchange between the two countries is quite critical. So I wanted to be kind of an enabler between the two countries. What would be the commonality between the two countries? Education system is one of the commonalities. The education environment of Japan and Korea are quite similar. First, cram school, or 학원 or juku in Japanese. After finishing school, they go to a academy or cram school to study further. Also, population of the two countries think that education is critical to one's life. When I was in Yonsei University, I also learned that actually when I said to people that I graduated from Yonsei University, people think that I'm from a top-notch university, which is quite good impression for myself. Also, competition-based college entrance system is another commonality, and education inequalities is another thing I noticed. Also, gap year is very uncommon in both countries, unlike other Western countries. What about the differences between the two countries? This is quite interesting, and there are many stark differences between the two countries. After graduating college, when they try to land a job, Korean companies put a lot of emphasis into so-called specification or qualification or background, academic background. Academic background is very critical when they're trying to get a job. For example, GPA or foreign language capabilities or professional certificates and internship experience. These kind of experiences or qualification are critical from the perspective of Korean company when they're trying to find new hires. And also, education is all about winning over others. What about Japan's situation? Japanese companies, instead of those qualifications, prioritize potential of candidates. I had a chance to work for a Japanese company as well, and I realized that kind of mingling with colleagues was very critical. And that could be seen as one good potential from the perspective of Japanese company. So if you see the examples of Japanese company, circle activities, potential for growth, hobbies, you might think that these are more difficult criteria or qualification, but these are very much valued by Japanese companies. Also, so-called chemistry or the kind of chemistry between company and you are very much emphasized. Hobbies can be one example of the qualification that are very much liked by Japanese firms. So what would be the meaning of exchange for both countries? I think we need to see clearly the meaning of the exchange. In case of Korea, the job market is quite challenging. There are not enough jobs. And actually, there are many job seekers who are very fluent in foreign language, including Japanese. I think some of you can also speak in Japanese or in English. So this kind of language proficiency is outstanding, much more than Japanese people. Also, people have professional knowledge in the field of IT or engineering. So To put it simply, there are so many people with a good qualification. Of course, male students need to go to military, but I'm not that. I don't think that that is only one reason. But many Korean people have good mentality, which is very much appreciated by Japanese companies. So, given that, I think the exchange can be very useful for both countries. In terms of macro perspective, the two countries has a commonality in culture and have kind of similar background. So it is very easy to be a friend to each other. Actually, I spent some time in the U.S., so I learned that the culture of the two countries are quite similar to each other. And I also learned that as while starting a company or while studying outside of the country, I learned that the perception of a specific country can easily change when you actually experience the country in person. And that kind of hands experience is very critical. For example, as a Japanese people, I spent some time in Korea. That kind of experience taught me that the perception of myself sometimes can be very wrong, and that gave me a chance to be a better version of myself. In macro perspective, people-to-people exchange can facilitate the nation-to-nation exchange. This kind of private level exchange can continue in a consistent manner, and that kind of consistency can help many people to change their perception to each other. Also, recently, I also realized that if we can generate more people who have more knowledge about the country to each other, it could be very beneficial to the people in both countries, because as a person who had that kind of experience, I learned the power of knowledge spread and experiences. So what do we need to do going forward? We first need to think about the types of exchanges. There could be multiple types of exchange depending on the organizer, age, period. There could be multiple types of exchanges. For example, we can promote some exchange programs for middle school student, high school student, university student, adults, or some could be short-term programs, some could be longer to mid program. There could be many colors and shapes of exchanges. But like I said before, if we have a good understanding of each other and if we can have a in-person experience to each other, we can improve the exchange naturally between the two countries. We need to create a channel where people naturally can experience the culture of the two countries. That is very critical, I believe. And by doing so, we can also translate those short-term experiences into mid to longer-term exchanges. To put it simply, more shorter-term exchanges can generate more and stronger relations at the individual level and at the national level, and by doing so we can improve our understanding of each other. So this is my final suggestion, and that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much again for your presentation. I think her work is really important, that she's, during the past year, she's working for the bilateral, cultural, educational, and other exchanges as well. So I have one small suggestion for your kind consideration, whether your business could be expanded to Chinese students or Chinese people, then it'll be really meaningful for future CGK exchanges. Thank you very much. Next, please join me to welcome Mr. Yu Won-sun to deliver a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Hi, everybody. I'm Won-sun Yu. As you can probably tell from my name, I'm Korean, and I'm doing my presentation in English, and we've been talking about why I'm doing it, so I haven't quite figured out yet, but please bear with me. I'll do my presentation in English. I'm actually a beneficiary of the TCS program, as well as what we call Campus Asia program that Her Excellency also mentioned as part of my graduate school experience. And I'm going to talk about it and maybe give you some of the things that I've taken away, as well as, some advice, and I'll try to do it least 건데 as possible because that is lately very important, right? So I've been part of what we call the Becerro Campus Asia program, and that involves Seoul National University, the University of Tokyo, and Peking University. And I've chosen to do the, yeah, you can see it right there. And there are basically many consortiums that differs according to majors, and I just selected the list that includes the Becerro program, but I think there are, if I'm correct, more than 15 or a couple of dozens at this point. I don't know how many are active, but I've been very grateful to be a part of the Becerro program. So the flow of my program basically went as follows. I spent a year in Seoul at Seoul National University, a graduate school of international studies, and spent one semester in Peking, where I did my exchange semester, and another year at the University of Tokyo Graduate School of Public Policy. And as you can see, what's interesting here is that they offer different degrees, right? And I've chosen to do the Master of Arts in International Studies with the major in International Commerce. And also I got a degree from the University of Tokyo, Master of Public Policy. And the classes obviously are similar because we basically penetrate one, in the grand scope of things, one breadth of studies, but you can basically choose different emphasis according to the institutions you choose to go. And I think that's very interesting, and I think that's probably the case for other consortia as well. And I'm going to talk about the experiences in these three institutions with the photos, and I'm going to go very fast because there are many alcohols, and probably it's not the session for that. So this is basically when I was selected as the member for Campus Asia while I was in SNU, and your experience of trilateral cooperation starts when you're at the home institution with the students that are in your home institution as part of their Campus Asia programs, because it all goes around. So there isn't really a concept of kohai, senpai, 선배, 후배, because like I say, it goes around. And when I'm in Peking, who used to join SNU later than myself would have had more experiences at their home institution. So I think it's quite interesting that we exchange on a more or less an equal footing and similar familiarities with the new surroundings. And you can also see there's a professor who's also visited Seoul, and we had this nomikai, which is a constant theme of Campus Asia here. And my experiences at my home institution included doing some student council work. And I think that's very important wherever you go, that you actively take some leadership role. And I think oftentimes, usually for all Korean and Japanese students, if they go abroad, you're a little reluctant to take leadership roles. I think less so for Chinese students, if I'm right. But I think it's very important to step outside your comfort zone because you already decided to do so, and make a mark and represent your institution, if you like, in your sister schools, right? And you can see the photos, and I also participated in one of the workshops that was hosted by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And I think the experience that I joined Campus Asia, that I'm willing to cooperate with other students from other countries, gave me a big plus points in these kind of selection processes. And this is China, and obviously, and you can probably tell that there are many red circles. Doesn't really mean much. It means they refer to places that I've been to during my stays in Campus Asia, and I'm talking about 6 months, so very many places. And this is so because I've decided that during my stay in China, I'm going to learn Chinese. I'm going to immerse myself into Chinese way of life. And one way of doing it is traveling domestic, right? And those were the sole purposes that I wanted to take away from my Chinese experiences. And I've been able to, now I've forgot a lot, but speak a decent level of Chinese at the point of, my departure. And I've learned to, like you say, this is not my boyfriend, it's my Korean colleague, but there wasn't space on the seat. And this is the, we did room escape, and the instructions were obviously in Chinese, so my contributions were very little, but we had lots of fun. And this is kind of the Campus Asia experiences, because the guy on the left is my, what we call the buddy, and he's taking care of me while I was in Peking University. And we've kind of exchanged letters, and he would take me out to dinner and introduce me to his friends, and kind of helping you to soft land in those institutions. And obviously, when he came to Korea, he's had, dinner with my parents, and I introduced my friends to him as well. So a very mutual relationship that's both beneficial for both of them. And in Japan here also, red dots represent the places that I've traveled. It's less so because purpose of my aim when I went to Japan was to get a job, actually. And I could talk a little bit about it, but obviously, Moe-san is such an expert that me talking about it would be a little bit out of place. But eventually, I just to come to the conclusion, I actually did get a job in Japan. And you might be asking, what the hell I'm not what the hell, but 어쩌다가로 번역 부탁드릴게요. How did you end up working in Korea? Would be an obvious question here, but I've decided that I wanted to eventually, settle in Korea. That's why I'm currently working in a Korean company. But I've made many experiences that were way out of my comfort zone in order to get that job. Basically, everything a Japanese job seeker would do, I did. Went to Boston Career Forum after going to Japan in September, and here they would know that Boston Career Forum is November, or you have to basically prepare for in September. So with very little knowledge of Japanese, I started job seeking, and there's a thing called OG visits, which is basically cold calling your graduates in the companies that you want to go to, and asking them to have lunch or dinner, which is kind of unfamiliar concept to people like me, like Koreans, right? Where the recruiters actively kind of recruit, and the applicants just apply, and their duty kind of stops there, right? So I did many things to kind of achieve what I try to do, and this is and I've also participated in the TCS organized Trilateral Youth Summit. I think that's year 2016, held in Japan, Kanazawa. And the thing about the Japanese student and Chinese student, and also Korean students who participated in these programs, the thing about them is that they overlap quite a lot. So if you know a few of them, then your breadth and width of acquaintances in these countries, go dramatically high. So I know a lot of Japanese friends and Chinese friends through Campus Asia and Trilateral Youth Summit, and they know each other very well as well. So, which is a very good way of keeping the continuity in your relationship, which I think is very important, that I would like to talk about later. This is a little silly photo of me doing, it's called Ohenro, basically doing some a Buddhist temple walk in the islands of Japan, and I've also had the opportunity through Ministry of Monbukagasho, which is the culture and sciences. Yeah. And this is the Campus Asia trip that they send, and this is Okinawa. And unfortunately, during the stay of 3 days in Okinawa, I haven't seen the ocean at all, because the program was quite crammed with academic work. And not to demarket the merits of the Campus Asia program, we do when we do many academic things as well as cultural and friendly basis occasions as well. I'm just gonna skip these. And this is Campus Asia, kind of like biannual gatherings that happened in Japan. I know TCS is taking lots of initiatives to kind of build and provide a continuous forum on which these relationships can keep going. But beyond that certain point, the alumni are actually also taking initiatives to kind of host their own, gatherings, and that's very active in Japan. Unfortunately, not so in Korea and China, I don't think. So, sorry, I have such a bad eyesight. Yeah, it's very good. Obviously, I think I've tried to tell you many good things about the being part of the Trilateral cooperation. It's a lot of fun. It's a good learning experiences, and you can basically go out of your comfort zone. And if you achieve what you want to do, upon your decision of going abroad, then I think it's going to give you a great push in your career. It's going to be provide you with some lifelong friends, and I think that's pretty intuitive to a large extent. And I think in order to make your trilateral experiences and CJK cooperation more meaningful, is that you shouldn't be afraid to embarrass yourself. My Chinese teacher told me, would always pick on me and said, if Yuan Shan didn't speak Chinese, we wouldn't know that he's not Chinese. And that's kind of true. I still don't know why she picked on me particularly, but you have no reason to be too careful when you're dealing with these, because I think that's one of these benefits of doing CJK cooperation as compared to other forms of cooperation, because I think we look pretty similar. And because I'm running out of time, maybe one more point. Yeah, I think it's very important that you decide on what you want to achieve, because I think it's very important that you build relationship and also add some substance. And in order to make it lasting, dig deep academically or get a good job in those countries is, I think, a very good option. So those are my 2 cents for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yu, for your presentation. He actually gives our students a lot of valuable suggestions, such as getting out of the kind of your comfort zone and to try different new things. He graduated from the Campus Asia program. I'd like to add some small things about this project. It's an education project supported by the Ministry of Education of the 3 countries. Starting in 2011, it has developed into the 3rd phase. Now, not only it has developed to more than 20 consortia, which consist of 3 Chinese, Japanese, and Korean universities, providing different programs, majors totally different for the students, either graduate students or undergraduate students, or even some short period of exchange programs. So I'd like to also let you know that if you are interested, maybe it's also a good option for you for your kind of graduate study. Until now, during the past 10 years, there are more than nearly 10,000 graduates from the 3 countries, which has greatly promoted the education exchange among the 3 countries. Yeah, that's all what I would like to add. And I would like to thank you all very much again for your wonderful presentations to all speakers. Please join me to give a big round of applause for their contribution. Thank you very much. I'm not good at to be a moderator since we are running out of time, so we have 10 minutes for a Q&A session. I hope since we have the students from Jeju National University, so the floor is open to all of you to ask questions freely to all our speakers. Please raise your hand if you have any relevant questions you want to ask. Please. Trust me, this is not a classroom, so please do not, avoid any eye contact with me. So please ask questions. Actually, we received some questions from the students, so please do not hesitate. You can ask in your mother tongue, so don't worry. Okay, yep, this gentleman.
I in Chinese
Okay.
中日韩三国有很多文化的相似性。
Three countries have similar cultures based on Confucianism. But nationalism has become a recent issue. And we have cultural similarities which cause some issues. Then how can we make an equal exchange and how can we solve issues?
About your name and where you're from, your major or something. Yeah, thank you.
我叫白皓月。
And currently, I'm taking doctoral courses.
You would like to ask, or you would ask everyone?
我想提问。
And I'm going to ask a Chinese speaker.
Second, our other speakers here. 我想就第一个问题，回答一下您的这个。
And recently we marked the 30th anniversary of diplomatic ties between Korea and China. So many Chinese experts gathered together and had discussions. And between the three countries, we had a lot of discussions regarding culture, history, and we have a long history of culture. And online, there have been so many debates regarding cultures, in particular the origin of each country's culture. But I believe such debates will have been contributed by the three countries' historical exchanges and lessons. And I believe those issues show what we have learned. So in the West, in Egypt, in the ancient Egypt or Rome, they have same cultures, and the three countries have used Chinese characters. Also, the three countries are under influence of Confucianism, so the three countries have something in common in culture. So with commonalities, I believe the three countries can connect with one another. So I believe we have a kind of common thread or common soul that can connect all of us. And if we see them in a rational perspective, not emotional perspective, then commonalities between the three countries will make us closer to one another. We will be able to shorten the emotional distance. And this is what we have always said. When Chinese tourists or Japanese tourists come to Korea, they find Chinese characters very familiar. So such formula, I believe we use the same Chinese characteristic. That's why we can say we are familiar with one another. So cultural familiarity is very important, and as you mentioned before, we had some issues regarding the origin of culture. Some timid issue could be exacerbated after media coverage. And after media coverage, the origin of the issue might be confused. So such media coverage could cause misunderstandings between people. And on the internet, many people fight with one another saying they are right or wrong. So I have been able to see many escalated cases. So anyway, the three countries have their own unique culture. So the three countries should go hand in hand and think about how to upgrade their own culture. So we should not be too obsessed with timid issues, and we need to make sure that those issues are not escalated into exacerbated ones. Of course, sometimes the media exaggerated some facts and media, so media should think about it carefully.
Ms. Kasugai or Mr. Yu, would you like to answer? It was how can we accomplish fair and equitable cultural exchanges that is distinctively different from unidirectional cultural export driven by a certain kind of purpose or motive? It's a little bit difficult. Yeah, I'm sorry about this, but yeah, would you like to share some ideas? Okay. So the answer will be very short, within 1 minute, please. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe not the answer to the second question in a strict manner, but I think just kind of going off with what Lu-san said also, I think we have the choice as consumers to not purchase, for example, media or forms of products that kind of slices and dices the trilateral cooperation. For example, those that explicitly sells upon a certain nationalism, and we know kind of exactly what kind of films they are, but we still watch it, right? If you look at, for example, the rankings of Korea's most selling, most watched movies, then many of us would be surprised, to say the least. And I think, in order to kind of assuage those kind of problems, I think we can make our own choices. And I highly recommend the film Decision to Leave. That's 해야될 결심.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions? Yeah, we have a lady there.
Good afternoon. I'm currently majoring in diplomacy and politics. I'm Kim Soo-min at Jeju National University. I'm going to ask a question to CEO Kasugai Moe. And currently in Korea, we are experiencing a super-aged society, so the not enough human resources has become an important issue. So, are there any projects that support Chinese and Japanese youth to come Korea for jobs?
私も政治外交学科だったの。
So actually, I had a same major, so I think I had a same situation back in the days in my country. I started to learn Chinese, and cake contents is quite popular in China as well. So there are so many Chinese people who want to get a job in Korea, and I wish I could support those Chinese people as well. So I supported Japanese people to get a job in Korea in multiple manners, but I have many difficulties, to say the truth, because in Korea, getting a job permit is not that easy. So that means that Japanese people need to go through multiple difficult steps to get a job permit. So I wish we can alleviate this kind of difficulties to create a better connection between the three countries.
Okay, thank you very much. Losuke-san, do you have anything to add? Yes, based on all our speakers' presentation or anything you would like to add. Yeah, I gave this kind of priority to you as the TCS staff.
Maybe we can take a few more questions first.
Yes, yes, we can still receive the last question if there's any. Okay, please. Wow, we have more questions. Yeah.
こんにちは。チェジュ大学教から来ました西村梨沙です。専攻は
Good afternoon. I'm from Jeju National University. I'm majoring in tourism and management. I have a question to CEO Kaskai Moe. And currently, I'm studying abroad as well in Korea. So listening to your presentations and remarks, I believe there are so many differences between the three countries and our generations and our parents' generations. So we have quite different images. And before coming to Korea, I've heard a lot about Korea from my parents and grandparents, but what they said and the reality in Korea are quite different from one another. And after coming to Korea, I have listened to my friends' stories, and I have also listened to some older generation stories, but their stories are also different from one another because of disparities in education, and generations have different views. So to narrow the gap between the generations, what should we do? What kind of activities do you think is needed? Thank you very much for your question. And my mother also doesn't have many good images regarding China, but indeed my mother doesn't like China. But what is interesting is that my mother came to Korea to meet me, and for a month in a language school, she learned how to speak Korean, and she met a Chinese classmate. So she started having exchanges with Chinese students, and she said, the Chinese student gave me a cookie, and she said some positive sentiment and image builds up inside. So as you mentioned before, our parent generations have different education levels. So many parents' generations do not have good images of other countries. To solve those issues, we need to educate. We need to promote exchanges. So the youth generation should create opportunities for our parent generation so that they can exchange.
Since we're running out of time, so we have to stop receiving any questions. Please join me to welcome TCS Deputy Secretary General, Mr. Baek Bok-hun, to deliver the closing remarks. Please, welcome. Thank you.
The three speakers have led the really active and the brave lives. Once again, applause to three speakers. Big applause. I think everybody, the Korean students, know Mr. Kim Woo-jung. Kim Woo-jung said once, the world is wide and big. There is much to do. You be the very, very brave and ambitious and also active. Students, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to sincerely congratulate on success of the Jeju Forum session on the theme of Youth for Future. The speakers of this session have already mentioned the barriers of network channels allow us to look for new ways of narrowing the gap in perspectives of the Chinese, Japanese, and Korean youth. I sincerely believe you young leaders have so much energy, passion, and deep insight to change the world, and including East Asia as a whole. Korea's former ambassador to the UN and a famous scholar, Dr. Young-jin Choi, said in his book, The East and the West, that the East influenced by the in Korean culture will soon overcome the West, which is under the influence of the young culture. According to him, the East will soon be able to overcome the West when the East successfully produce new concept appliance, which the West has mostly invented and produced. He added that East Asian countries, under the influence of Confucianism, have to cooperate much closely in defiance of the difference in perspectives and in national interests. Otherwise, if East Asia does not put out the fire called nationalism, it will probably burn itself sooner or later. We must immediately take action to avoid the destructive end. When? Now. Several attempts to form a cooperation mechanism, including Korea, Japan, and China, yet have not been proved so successful for few reasons. There are still long-standing national rivalries and historical controversies in East Asia. In addition, the different ruling systems and ideas from each country, as well as the different perspectives on outer forces and the ideological confrontation throughout East Asia, have been hurdles on the way to stability and peace in East Asia as a whole. East Asia is changing rapidly in so fast pace that has never been observed before. However, the increasing wealth brought by the fast industrialization in Japan, Korea, and China has not promised with stability, peace, and prosperity. The disparity between idea and reality, economic inequality, generation gap, and the rise of nationalism have weakened the stability and peace in East Asia. It is no surprise that more youth in Korea, Japan, and China are dissatisfied with reality. They cannot easily find jobs or settle down to make a family or their own. That causes low birth rate, which have a negative effect on building a sustainable society. They cannot easily dream of their future. In such frustrating situations, mutual understanding among neighboring countries can decline even among our youth. The adult generation must take a step right now. We must encourage and help the young people to stand upon their own feet. We need to give enough chances to be able to build their own life. The older generation should not force them to work the existing path of division, conflict, and quarrel, which we have long experienced. Lastly, I would like to emphasize that TCS will go together with the young Korean, Japanese, and Chinese people to the way of mutual understanding, shared culture, and success. Especially, the TCS will make all efforts to integrate and upgrade the existing youth exchange program, the Trilateral Youth Exchange Network. It will make a talent pool and exchange center for youth of China, Japan, and Korea, so as to attract more attention from the young people. The TCS will encourage the young people to participate in the trilateral cooperation for the bright future of the three countries. I wish Jeju became the peace and the prosperity island. Jeju become the center of China, Japan, Korea cooperation. I would like to add to express my sincere gratitude to all the speakers. Once again, thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, dear Stibak. Now let's close our session. Thank you so much again. Thank you very much. 감사합니다. 아리가또
그럼
고자이마스.
이것으로 세션을 마치겠습니다.